Hello and welcome back. Today I'm doing lesson 2.3D, which can be found in the teacher's manual on pages 96 and 97. Today we are going to divide decimal numbers by adding decimal places when there is a remainder. This is one of my favorite decimal lessons to teach. I'm sad that we can't do this together, but I hope that you'll be able to come up with the way to solve this problem before I tell you. Let's take a quick review of some regular ways that we divide whole numbers. So if we started with something like 112, I'm going to sneeze, and we divided it into 5 groups, it would look like this. We would have 100, we would have 110, and we would have 2 ones. And we need to divide this into 5 groups. Now, as you might remember, we need to take a look at this largest place value when we are dividing. The largest place value we have is this guy right here. We have 100. We need to divide 100 into 5 groups. Obviously, we need to rename that guy. And so, you should be thinking in your brain, well, we could just put him over here. Ooh. And we can make that 100 into 10 tenths. It's the same value, but it will allow us to divide him up. Now we have, this was our 100. We have 10 tens. Plus we have one more 10. So we're going to now think of not just this guy, but we're going to think of this. And we're going to say we actually have 11 tens. We need to divide them into 5 groups. So let me bring my groups over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we still have 1 here. And as you remember, to show that, we're going to say we put 2 tens in each of the 5 groups. We used 10 tens, and we have 1 10 left. And now we're going to take a look at our 2 ones. We have 10 tens and we have 2 ones, and somehow we need to get all these guys into our 5 groups. So we again need to rename. Let's see if I can make that noise again. Yes. And we're going to do 10 more ones for the guy who was just eaten by the garbage can. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have these 10 ones from the 10 we just had, plus our 2 more. So now instead of 1 10 and 2 ones, we actually have 12 ones. And we're going to divide those 12 ones into our 5 groups. So let's think about this. We could put 2 in each, and that would use up 10. We'd have 2 left over, but we wouldn't have enough to put 3 in each. So let's go ahead and put 2 in each. Oops. And now we have 2 guys left over. And we would write that in our algorithm this way. We would say we put 2 ones in each of our 5 groups. We used up 10 of our ones. We have 2 ones remaining. Up until this point, you have just said, well, I have 2 ones remaining. It was close. It wasn't perfect, but this was my answer. But now, my dear friends, you will never have to look at this remainder again, because I'm going to show you that you know more about numbers than you did at the beginning of 4th grade. And you can think of numbers in different ways. that will help you solve problems without remainders. So, what I want to do is I'm going to rewrite 112 divided into 5 groups. This is the problem we just did. I wanted to clear my board because I want to make sure we have enough room. And because you've already seen the place value discs, I don't think you need to see them again. This would be a good time for you to get out a piece of paper and write this problem and follow it along with me. So go ahead and pause, grab a piece of paper, and push play as soon as you're ready. Okay, if you remember, we thought of these as 11 tenths. We said we could put 2 tens in each of the 5 groups, using 10 of those tens and having 1 10 left over. And then we're going to bring down our 12 ones. We said that we could have those 12 ones, divide them into 5 groups, and we could think, well, we can put 2 ones into each group, and we will have used 10 ones, and we have 2 ones left over. But I'm just going to make this a little longer. Does anybody know what we could do to this big number up here, this 112, so that we could keep dividing? If you said, ooh, this actually equals 112 also, I could just put a decimal place and a 0 and it doesn't change the value, then you were right. Da-da-da. We are bringing this guy down here. And now, instead of just having 2 ones, we have 20 tenths. I'm going to pop my decimal place up here. I could not divide 2 ones into 5 groups. I can't divide 2 of these guys into 5 groups. I definitely could divide 20 of these guys into 5 groups. 20 tenths divided by 5 should be 4 tenths. Because 20 divided by 5 is 4. So 20 tenths divided by 5 is 4 tenths. If I had 20 of these, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and divided them into 5 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Do you see how I have 4 in each of my 5 groups? This one is kind of hiding there. There we go. And now I have used all 20 of my tenths. Now I have nothing left over. I have nothing more to bring down. So my answer is no longer 22 remainder 2. My answer is 22 and 4 tenths. We're going to do another one. Please write down 66 divided by 8. Well, here we go. We have 6 tens here, but 8 groups. We do not have enough tens to give even 1 for each group. So we've got to think of this as 66 ones. In your brain, you should be thinking about 66. What would be pretty close? 8 and something is going to get close to 66 in your number bond. And in my brain, I thought, well, 8 times 8, this is a number bond that I know. Let me see if I can erase this. So 64 is 8 times 8. So 8 times 8 is 64, and I've used up 64 ones. Of those 66, I only have 2 ones left over. Up until this point, as you know, you would have said, oh, I can't do anything with those 2 ones. Alas, I'll just have to write remainder 2, and that's going to be the answer. And that was fine. That was fine in 3rd grade. It was fine for half of 4th grade. But it is fine no longer, my friends, because you know about decimals. So you are now going to say, aha, I can just easily add a 0 to 66. This has not changed the value of 66 at all. It's just added a decimal place. So now I can bring this down. And rather than calling this 2 ones, I can call this 20 tenths. If I had 20 tenths, I could definitely divide them into 8 groups. How many could I put in each of those groups? Well, I know that 8 times 2 is 16, and 8 times 3 is 24. So the closest I can get is saying I am going to put 2 tenths in each of those 8 groups, and I would have used up 16 tenths. I still have 4 tenths left. Oh, we were so close. Unless we add another 0 and bring it down again. We could think of this as 4 tenths, or we could rename it as 40 hundredths. I can't divide 4 tenths into 8 groups, but I definitely can divide 40 hundredths into 8 groups. And if you know that 40 divided by 8 is 5, then you also know that 40 hundredths divided by 8 is 5 hundredths. And that would use up all 40 hundredths that you have left. Now I have nothing left. I have no remainders, and I have a very accurate answer. 66 divided by 8 is 8 and 25 hundredths. Now it is time for you to pause and try it. So I want you to pause. I want you to find in your textbook, I want you to find page 58. And I want you to do on page 58 in your textbook, I want you to do number 17. I want you to do A. I would like for you to do D. I would like for you to do E. Please do those 3 problems, and then when you're finished, I'll show you the answer and you can see how you did. Okay, let's see how things went. A is this one. 8 divided by 5. If you have 8 ones and you divide them into 5 groups, you can put 1 in each group, and you will have used up 5 of them. You have 3 left. You have nothing else to bring down, but we are no longer using remainders, so we are going to add a 0 here and rename 3 ones as 30 tenths. If you have 30 tenths divided by 5, you know that you should have 6 tenths in each group because 30 divided by 5 is 6. So 30 tenths divided by 5 is 6 tenths. 6 tenths times 5 is 30 tenths, which means that you've used up all 30 and you have nothing left. So 1 and 6 tenths is your answer for A. Give yourself a star if you got it right. We're going to do D. For D, I want, we did 9/10 divided by 2. Go ahead and pop your decimal straight up there because you're talking about tenths to begin with. If you had 9/10 and you had to divide them into 2 groups, you could put 4/10 in each group. 4/10 times 2 is 8/10. You've used up 8/10. You have 1/10 remaining. 1/10 cannot be divided into 2 groups. So you're going to have to add a 0, and instead of calling this guy 1/10, you are now calling him 10/100. 10/100 divided into 2 groups, that would let you put 5/100 in each group because 5/100 times 2 is 10/100. You've used 10/100 and you have nothing left. 45/100 is the answer for D. Give yourself a star if you got it right. And then we're going to do E. Here we did 1 and 7/10, and we're going to divide that into 5 groups. We have 1 whole, and we have to somehow get it into 5 groups, which is not going to work. So we are renaming this 1 whole as 10/10 plus 7 more tenths, which means this is really 17/10. 17/10 divided into 5 groups. Well, I know that 5 times 3 is 15, so 5 times 3/10 would be 15/10, and that's pretty close to 17/10. So you can put 3/10 in each group and use up 15/10. You would have 2/10 left over. Remember, this answer down here needs to be smaller than this over here because otherwise you could have put more of these guys into those groups. But because 2 is less than 5, we're in good shape. Now, 2/10 cannot be divided into 5 groups. So we've got to add some hundredths. And instead of thinking of this as 2/10, we are now saying, let's just rename the 2/10 as 20/100. It's the same amount of money, as you know, if you thought of this as like 2 dimes as opposed to 20 pennies. 2/10 is the same as 20/100, but it will let us divide it up evenly. 20/100 divided into 5 groups would let us put 4 in each group. 4/100 times 5 is 20/100. So we would have used up all of the hundredths. We'd have nothing left. And so our answer is 34/100. Give yourself a star if you got it right. All right, 4th grade, you're doing a great job. Thanks for hanging with me today. Have a good day.